Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to a new episode on how to analyze any chart from scratch without using any indicators, just by applying basic price action concepts and Macrostructure 101. So let's get started, and as usual, cheers. Today we have episode number 17, which is a Forex pair USD CAD. If you aren't familiar with this series, don't worry, I'll make sure to attach the entire playlist, which includes all the videos by order, in the description below. For those who already know, we always start from the higher time frames, weekly and daily, to identify where we currently stand in the market. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside the range? And of course, as price approaches the lower bound, we'll be looking for buy setups. It can be horizontal or non-horizontal. And as price approaches the upper bound or the resistance, we'll be looking for sell setups. It can also be horizontal or non-horizontal. Let's start by drawing our support and resistance, then supply and demand zones. Last but not least, we'll go over trend lines. So support and resistance are very simple, and I guess you already know for those who watched the previous 16 episodes. So how about you pause this video? You already know the pair and the time frame. Pause the video, try to draw it by yourself, and then come back and compare it with mine. It would be a good practical example, right? So first of all, as you can see, these are all the data that we can see. We start from the top and we drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. Of course, we need major swings and not like minor swings, just like these guys. We need a full swing, which is this one, for example. Okay, so this is the kind of major swings that we want to focus on to draw our key rejection areas, because we are from a higher time frame. We don't want small rejection. So we are expecting when price retested, we are expecting a strong rejection as price made a rejection, strong rejection from it previously. So drag and drop it as mentioned before, and of course I keep this one even though it's not a typical supply and resistance, because it's the all-time high and the round number 1.6. So let's continue from here. I like to make it like blue, green, blue, green. So let's go for green now. And if we drag and drop, we can see that we don't have many swings here, only maybe one. So it's not a strong one. But if we go lower, we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's also a strong round number around 1.5, right? Let me show you the rejections. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so around like 1.51 if you want to be accurate. But anyway, it's an entire zone and not a laser level. So you should treat it like this, right? So these are the, now we can see it better, I guess. But I make it as a laser level to make the chart cleaner. Now let's go for blue this time, and let's continue. We've got a massive one here, and if you zoom in, we can simply see that this is only a wick and not a candle close, so we can draw it. We don't want the market to close above it, but a wick is even a stronger indication that this is actually a strong one. So let's go for 1.45, and again, it's an entire area, not a laser level, but I'll draw it as a level here because like it's very far from the price. What we care about is this price action, as price is currently sitting around this area. So we've got a rejection here, which is this one is the strongest one among these ones so far. Rejection, rejection, right? Now let's go for green, right? So oops, not the screen, this one. So let's drag and drop it and try to connect as many swings as possible. I can already see like these two here, but let's see if the price has been respecting it previously. Okay, so I can't really see, I will only see like break a small one, nothing like major to mention. If we go lower, here we go. We've got these two, right? So 1, 2, then we've got this small one, and we've got this small one here. We also have this, and what is it? If we make it higher or lower, it's an entire zone, of course. Then this area, we also have this one and this one, right? This one as well. So it's an entire area of supply and resistance. If we make it lower, we can connect these guys. If we make it higher, we can connect these guys here. So it's an entire zone. So let's actually draw it as two levels for this particular one. Let's draw 1.3, which is a strong round number again. And next, let's make it make an offset for it which we will zoom in a bit and see that it's also a supply zone, which is still fresh, and 32. That's it. So you can see it actually how the price is respecting this particular zone. Let's continue and let's go for blue for this time. Now, I can see a very, very obvious one. So I can't resist. I'll draw it now, okay? So here we go, right? So 1, 2, 3, and lately the price has been respecting this one very well. If you make it a little bit lower, it's rejecting these two here. So again and again, it's an entire zone and it makes perfect sense. 1.2. So we've got 1.2, 1.3, 1.45, and so on. Of course, let's make an offset for it like this to cover the lower ones around 1.85, I guess. Yes, it would be good. And we can make this one a little bit higher to around 1.15 or 2. That doesn't really matter, right? So how I draw it, as long as 1.15. You know what? 1.1. Let's do this. Okay. Why? Because it's an entire zone already. So we're not going to buy and sell blindly around it. We'll be looking for buy setups. So for example, around this area, we zoomed into our time frames and look for extra confirmation that the buyers are taking over. Okay, so let's see if we got anything in the middle, right? So we've got one. This one is broken. If you zoom in, we can see that these are daily close, I guess. Yes. So we have a daily close, only one, which is still fine. But let's see this one. Okay, 1, 2, and you know what? I'll keep this one in orange, and I'll try to see if it is stronger on daily time frame. This is how you use the daily time frame, because when you can draw a lot of levels or key rejection levels on weekly, chances are that you won't find many on daily, which makes sense because we already got our main ones. But this one, we've got rejection here as well. And this small one, but I'm not really sure about this. So what I'll do is I'll keep it, right? And it's in the middle of the lower band and upper bound, which also makes sense. But keep it, and I'll zoom into daily time frame to see if we can refine it to follow the latest price action more, to be more relevant. Okay, so now let's continue. We have green, blue. Now let's go for green. And let's go lower. We don't have anything here, broken, only one, but it's broken here. So it's not that strong. Here we go. We've got one here, many rejections from it previously, this rejection, this one, and then price broke upward. It's now acting as a support. So it's actually a strong one. Let's go for 75. And of course, it's an entire zone. So we can go for like this zone, 55 or 5. That's it. And last but not least, we also have this one, which is a very obvious one. It's not a typical one. We don't have 3 rejections from it, but let's keep it as the all-time low around 9.5. And let's go for this one, which is the all-time low for this particular pair on the sticker FXCM. This is the lowest point that we can see. Let's go for 0.9. So we've got 0.9, the lowest point, 1.61, the highest point. That's it for support and resistance. It's enough, right? So now we've got a clear picture about where we are in the market. We are currently in the middle and inside this major resistance and this major support. Anyway, we'll zoom in a bit to the daily time frame. And if we zoom in, we can see that these zones make perfect sense. We've got our support here. This is the minor one rejecting these guys. This is the upper main one, which is rejecting these. Here we go, right? So now it's acting as a resistance as price is below it. We also have a minor one around here, right? You can see the rejections from it. Maybe you can see it better from daily. You know what? I'll also draw it in orange, right? So to check it out on daily, because we couldn't see this one on a zoomed out picture, which is also, I guess, around 37. Yes, and it's an entire zone. So you should like draw it like this, okay? So we've got these main ones. Now let's go for supply and demand zones. As mentioned previously, we got a supply zone here. So, but I will not draw it as we already have a resistance area. Now we have a demand zone here. We also have a demand zone here, but I will not draw it because we have a support. So this is basically it on weekly time frame. Let's see if we can draw any trend lines. I then don't see any fresh ones. We had this one previously, got broken, got old. It's not that strong. And here we go. We can see already that USD CAD is trading inside this whole range from a zoom out perspective. We had this movement upward, downward, upward, downward. So now what we're expecting is a movement upward again. But of course, for it to be able to trade till around this area, it will have to cross this one and this one as well. Just like previously, we were here, broke this one, then broke this resistance, and then last but not least, broke this upper one. But we've got the whole picture. We are inside this big range from weekly, and we are currently around the lower bound. We were looking for buy setups here. So long story short, we're around a support area. We are overall bullish around the lower band, expecting a movement upward. But let's take it step by step. Now we'll zoom into lower time frames to refine it and to identify key rejection areas. I can draw trend lines here, but I'll not do it from weekly. I'll keep it for daily because it would be clearer. But the one I was going to draw is clearly this one, because from a medium-term perspective, because the zoomed out picture, we know that we are looking for buy. If we zoom in to identify the market structure, we can see that we had this impulse, correction, and the swing is now forming, even though it's still forming, but we can actually draw the overall movement. These brown trend lines engulf the overall movement. So I'm currently trading like this, and as price approaches the upper bound, which is the resistance, which is also the upper bound trend line acting as an horizontal resistance and an overbought area, obviously we'll be looking for what? Looking for sell setups. It would be actually a very, very strong area. It was acting as support previously, broken down, it's acting as a resistance. One. Second, we have a supply zone, which I mentioned earlier. Third, we have the upper brown trend line, which I call a trio retest, if you ever heard me saying it. So we have a retest, retest, and retest. Okay, so, and of course, we'll be looking for buy setups here until eventually this one is broken upward. It would become a support again, just like here, or this one is broken downward, which is a support. We'll see it better from daily, of course. In this case, we'll be looking for sell. So that's how the things become clearer on higher time frames. And in fact, half of the work is done on lower time frames. Half of the work is done on weekly and daily, because if you want to trade, you want to know two things. First of all, if you are looking for a buy or a sell, this is half of the work. This is what you do from daily and weekly. What I want to look for, a buy, then I zoom into lower time frames, H4, H1, and so on, to look for buy setups. It depends on your trading plan, on how much, depends on you. If you are a scalper, a day trader, or a swing trader. I myself, I'm a swing trader. So I only zoom into these ones that you see here. I don't zoom in lower than M30. If I find anything on H4, I don't need to zoom into lower time frames. Then I zoom in. If I don't find like anything clear on H4, then I can zoom into H1. You know what, since we drew this one here and like I made the complete analysis, like now you'll find it boring if we do it again on daily, but you got the whole picture and we already did it on a weekly time frame. Now let's check out these ones, right? We can see that this one has been respecting lately very, very well. Support here, resistance here, then support now, and then price broken downward, it's acting as a resistance. Now price broken upward, so it's acting as a support. And of course, remember, a support being broken is not a standalone strategy, right? That's why we always zoom out, know where we're in the market, draw our trend lines. We like our main job is like we are risk managers, so we're trying to find or to put the odds in our favor. But since we know that we are bullish, we have this trend line, so now it will add more confidence or more strength to this support area. So long story short, I guess it would be a very small video, like if you want to compare it to previous ones, which are 25 minutes or 20 minutes. I'm not really sure about this one. I don't see the time of it, but we are bullish. And long story short, like we already know what we are looking for. We'll be looking for sell setups around this area. Let me make it in red, and buy setups around this area. Here we go. And we'll also have a rejection area here around 1.28, right? We can see many rejections from it. This area is from weekly time frame. If we zoom out, we can see it here, right? We can see it here, which is from weekly time frame. But now if we zoom in, we can see that this is also a strong supply and resistance. So price can go up, reject this one, then go down, reject this one. In this case, we'll be looking for buy, then dive inside this resistance where we'll be looking for sell setups. So long story short, what we'll be looking for is, let me make this one only appear on daily. Fantastic, only on daily. Okay, so for USD CAD to trade any higher from here, it has to break above this area. In this case, a movement to the next resistance would be expected around 1.3, where we'll be looking for sell setups, right? So we have resistance here, and around 1.28, 1.29, around this area, we also have many rejections, and it is visible from daily time. It wasn't visible from weekly, but this is the power of zooming in also out on daily and then in on daily, and of course out and in on weekly time frame. So already got rejections here. So we start to look for sell setups starting from this area. Anyway, I'll not draw it for now to keep the chart as clean as possible. You know what? I'll draw it for you to see it. Okay, so I'll go for 85. This is our rejection. Of course, it's an entire zone. Now let's zoom into H4. Here we go. We've got our support, our resistance. If broken upward, a movement till the next major resistance would be expected. Now let's look for like reversal setups. And previously, price was overall bearish, then got stuck inside this range, broke the structure upward. So now we are overall bullish. If we zoom in, we can see it very clearly. We've got a clean price action here, which is not like always found. A big impulse correction, then got stuck inside this range, signaling that the bears aren't strong enough to push any lower, just like they were pushing before, making low lows and lower highs. Instead, got stuck inside this consolidation in the shape of a head and shoulders or whatever we find on lower time frames. So now after breaking above this high, which is also a higher low, broken upward, now we are overall bullish. We had this impulse correction, and so on. So we are currently overall bullish from a medium-term perspective from H4. However, as price approaches this resistance zone, we'll be looking for sell setups. So what we'll do is we'll draw a trend line. We can go for this one or this one. This one is better because it's following the price action more. I'll go for blue for this one for H4. I don't want to see it on higher time frames. Here we go. And while looking, obviously, as mentioned previously, for sell setups, here's the channel engulfing the latest movement from H4 time frame. And as price approaches this resistance area, we'll be looking for sell setups. So we're waiting for what? We're waiting for price to form a third swing around our lower blue trend line to consider it valid, and then we'll be selling on its break upward, on its break downward. In this case, like this, and let me refine this one. And if the sell is activated, our stop loss would be just above the previous high, and we target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, which would be around this support area, where we'll be actually looking for what? For buy setups, right? So this is what we are waiting for. And of course, if price like goes straight from here to around this resistance, which is, as mentioned previously, from daily time frame, a strong one, we'll be looking for sell setups on lower time frames as well. But I will not zoom into lower time frames as of now, as we are currently not around a very strong resistance, like around starting 1.28, 1.285. This is when I zoom into lower time frames to look for sell setups to catch maybe this movement downward till around the lower blue trend line. But for now, from a medium term perspective or like a medium-term trade, we'll be waiting for this scenario to happen. Then and only then we'll be selling USD CAD on this swing break downward. Of course, unless this one is broken up in an aggressive manner, then it would become a support, and we'll be looking for sell setups as mentioned previously around the upper bound of the daily time frame, which is even the bigger picture. Of course, if price trades lower from here, then this is our support area, entire support area, where we'll be looking for sell buy setup. Sorry, I don't know what's happening today. Okay, so that's it for USD CAD. Hope you like it. Best of luck, and I'll see you on the next episode.